Buried in the Judean Desert for over 2,000 years, the Dead Sea Scrolls were thought to confirm the unbroken purity of the Bible. But a new force, artificial intelligence, has cracked their secrets. What it found isn't reassuring. From altered scriptures to unexpected authors, the scrolls now tell a messier, more human story. This isn't just a scholarly update, it's a direct challenge to centuries of belief. And for some, it's bad. The discovery of the scrolls and the hidden questions. In 1947, amid the arid cliffs of the Judean Desert, a young Bedouin herder threw a stone into a cave near Qumran and heard pottery shatter. That sound would echo through history. What followed was the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, over 900 manuscripts hidden in 11 caves. They ranged from biblical books to sectarian rules, poetry to apocalyptic visions. Some were written on parchment, others on papyrus. Some in Hebrew, others in Aramaic or Greek. Spanning the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE, these texts offered a rare, fragmented window into the religious ferment before and during the rise of early Christianity. Yet for all their historical weight, basic questions eluded answers. Who wrote these scrolls? When exactly were they composed? Were they the work of a single sect, like the Essenes, or a broader community? Paleography and radiocarbon dating were the primary tools to date them, but contamination like castor oil used to preserve scrolls and stylistic guesswork limited their accuracy. Scholarly theories multiplied, but certainty remained elusive. Then entered a new force, artificial intelligence. With machine learning trained on handwriting strokes, parchment texture, and ink geometry, researchers began uncovering invisible signatures. No longer dependent solely on visual comparison, scholars could quantify stylistic features and correlate them with dated examples. What once took years of subjective study now took seconds of algorithmic inference. But with this power came unease. If AI could uncover not just dates, but scribes, communities, and ideologies, what if the scrolls told a story very different from what tradition assumes? Could scripture be more mutable, more political, more human than previously believed? This is not merely a technological advancement. It is a change in perspective. With AI, the scrolls begin to speak again, not just in words, but in structure, purpose, and contradiction. How AI was applied to the scrolls. At the University of Groningen, researchers developed a tool named Enoch, a nod to the ancient Jewish scribe who walked with God. But this Enoch was digital, a machine learning model designed to blend handwriting analysis with precise dating. It started with 30 fragments that underwent new, contaminant-free radiocarbon dating. These clean benchmarks became the model's anchor, its training ground. Enoch wasn't just fed text, it analyzed stroke angles, pen lifts, ink dispersion, and letter curvature, treating each character like biometric data. Think of it as forensic handwriting, but with neural networks. Once trained, it evaluated 135 undated fragments, searching for chronological and stylistic patterns too subtle for the human eye. It's not merely that Enoch could tell when a scroll was written, but how and possibly by whom. This built on prior efforts. A 2021 study used machine learning to reveal that the famed Great Isaiah scroll, once thought penned by a single hand, was actually written by 2 distinct scribes. The variation was imperceptible to the naked eye, but clear in AI's geometry. Tiny differences in bet, calf, and shin forms gave them away. Together, these methods marked a new era. Where once scholars feared fragment loss from destructive dating, Enoch could analyze entire collections non-invasively. The result? A growing database of fragments, newly dated and reclassified, with insights into scribal collaboration, migration, and ideology. With tools like Enoch, researchers didn't just digitize the past, they decoded it. But as AI peeled back the centuries, the scrolls revealed something unexpected. They were far older than assumed. The first big shock. The numbers didn't lie. According to the AI-augmented analysis, fragments previously assigned to the 2nd century BCE could date back to the 4th century BCE. The book of Daniel, especially chapters 8 to 11, was a major surprise. Once thought to emerge around 160 BCE, it now appears to have been written near 230 BCE during the waning years of Seleucid influence over Judea. This dramatically changes its context, placing it closer to the actual events it narrates. Why does this matter? The older the scrolls, the narrower the gap between oral tradition and written text. That compresses the timeline in which stories could evolve, reducing opportunities for theological editing or mythologizing. It suggests these texts may be nearer to their original composition than scholars previously imagined, written when their events were still fresh in communal memory. Even more astonishing was how often AI disagreed with previous datings. In about 21% of cases, the Enoch model returned dates significantly earlier than those proposed by experts. While it matched traditional estimates in 79 to 85% of trials, that remaining fifth raised serious questions about long-standing chronologies. Scrolls once considered late Second Temple creations might now be pre-Hasmonean. This shift rattles more than just historical timelines. If texts believed to reflect Roman-era anxieties were actually written during Greek rule, their meanings and political subtext must be reconsidered. These aren't just earlier writings, they're reflections of different fears, powers, and hopes. Older scrolls mean altered assumptions. What was once late may now be early, what seemed edited may be original. And that forces a broader reconsideration of script, scribe, and scripture alike. The scribes and the signatures. For decades, many assumed the scrolls were the solitary work of a few isolated scribes, quiet monks in the desert, slowly copying sacred texts. But AI has cracked that illusion. When researchers applied writer identification algorithms to the Great Isaiah Scroll, they found what human eyes had missed: two distinct scribes, differentiated by handwriting geometry, subtle differences in loop tension, pen angle, and character spacing. This wasn't an accident, it was evidence of a scriptorium, a coordinated workshop, not a lone effort. The implications are profound. If one scroll was penned by multiple hands, many others likely were too. The production of sacred text now appears collaborative, institutionalized. Enoch and its allied tools traced patterns in ink chemistry, parchment preparation, and even stitching techniques, building a forensic map of scroll creation. Different scrolls with similar materials hinted at shared origins, perhaps even supply chains or centralized workshops scattered across Judea, Samaria, and beyond. More than just copying, these scribes were editors, curators, transmitters. They weren't merely preserving tradition, they were shaping it. Variations in script and content across documents suggested evolving interpretations, with scrolls tailored for specific audiences or theological goals. Some phrases are shortened, others emphasize prophecy, still others omit entire sections later considered canonical. This forces us to rethink the Dead Sea Scrolls as relics of a single sect. Instead, they might represent a spectrum, communities negotiating belief, adapting scripture, and responding to crisis. These scribes weren't passive vessels of divine words. They were participants in an ideological struggle, writing in ink what others dared not speak aloud. But as the scribes emerge from anonymity, so do their choices. And what the AI found next, how the texts differ from later Bibles, suggests scripture itself was far less settled. The "it's bad" realization. The real shock wasn't just in when the scrolls were written, but in what they actually said. AI-driven comparisons revealed that many texts deviate substantially from the standardized Masoretic text, the basis of the modern Hebrew Bible. These weren't minor spelling differences. Some scrolls featured entirely different word orders, missing verses, and theological shifts. A copy of Deuteronomy, for instance, lacked key covenantal language. A fragment of Psalms reordered the stanzas. The book of Jeremiah, long suspected to exist in shorter and longer versions, was confirmed to have at least two distinct textual traditions. This challenges one of the oldest assumptions in biblical studies, that the sacred text has remained unchanged, handed down across centuries like an untouched flame. The scrolls suggest otherwise. Instead of a fixed canon, we see fluidity, textual instability stretching across generations, scribal revisions happening well into the Herodian era. AI analysis even found overlapping handwriting styles from different time periods, implying that scribal methods persisted far longer than previously assumed. For believers rooted in the doctrine of textual inerrancy, this is deeply unsettling. If Scripture was once so malleable, so open to human influence, how can one trust its purity? For institutions that use the scrolls as proof of biblical preservation, the findings force a reckoning. The phrase, "it's bad," even whispered in scholarly halls, doesn't mean heresy. It means disruption of faith narratives, of academic models, of public trust. But perhaps it's not bad. Perhaps it's truer. A record not of divine dictation, but of divine wrestling, where belief was contested, not dictated, revised, not fixed. And with this realization, the scroll's timeline demands revision. Their origins now stretch further into the past, shift them into new historical, political, and religious contexts, some far removed from Qumran. A new chronology of the scrolls. With earlier dates now confirmed, some texts as far back as 350 BCE, the historical lens through which we view these scrolls must be recalibrated. Once clustered around Qumran and dated to the Hasmonean or early Herodian periods, many fragments now appear to precede even that. Some may have originated during the Persian or early Hellenistic eras. That's not just a chronological shift, it's a narrative one. If these scrolls predate Qumran's founding around 100 BCE, then they likely came from other communities. Urban scribes in Jerusalem, priests in Samaria, or diaspora Jews returning from exile. The tidy story of the Essenes living in isolation and copying sacred texts no longer fits the data. Instead, AI reveals scrolls produced across multiple geographic nodes, later gathered, perhaps hidden, from destruction during the Roman suppression of the Jewish revolts in 66 to 73 CE. Even script types thought to succeed one another, Hasmonean evolving into Herodian, may have coexisted. That overlap, made visible through AI handwriting clustering, suggests different traditions persisted in parallel rather than replacing one another. In short, there was no single script, no unified theology, no one path to canonization. This broader timeline reshapes our understanding of early Judaism. It makes space for diversity, debate, and regional difference, and it has implications far beyond Judaism. If sacred texts were still fluid into the time of Jesus and the apostles, then early Christianity arose not beside a fixed Hebrew Bible, but amid a mosaic of versions. As the scrolls spread across time and place, the story of their impact widens too. Faith, scholarship, and public perception all stand at the edge of profound redefinition. Implications for faith, scholarship, and public memory. What happens when sacred texts are shown to be not fixed, but fluid, edited, debated, rewritten over centuries? For many faith traditions, the Dead Sea Scrolls have long stood as evidence of scriptural continuity. Now, AI-assisted discoveries challenge that narrative. The scrolls reveal a textual tradition filled with variation, experimentation, and theological diversity. For believers who view the Hebrew Bible as a direct, unaltered transmission of divine revelation, this represents a spiritual crossroads. Yet this is not a call to abandon faith, it is a call to deepen it. Understanding Scripture as a living, evolving dialogue invites a more dynamic engagement. Scholars now must ask, how were these variant texts used in worship, education, or resistance? Were some hidden because they conflicted with emerging orthodoxy? If a psalm lacks familiar verses or a law is framed differently, what community chose that version and why? Public perception is also in flux. For decades, museum exhibits and documentaries showcase the scrolls as symbols of textual stability. Now institutions may be pressed to revise those narratives. The story is richer but more complex and less reassuring. It reveals scribes not just as copyists, but as editors and interpreters, shaping what would later be called sacred. This complexity need not erode trust. It can build humility. The phrase, "it's bad," does not mean disaster. It means transformation. Certainty may weaken, but depth can grow. In the messy truth of the scrolls lies a reminder. Even sacred words have human fingerprints. Oh, my own puns. Still, even as AI redefines the scroll's story, it has limits. To understand the past fully, human interpretation remains essential. Technology opens doors, but wisdom must walk through them. Limitations, cautions, and the role of AI. Artificial intelligence has revolutionized scroll analysis, but it is no oracle. While models like Enoch boast an accuracy rate of 79 to 85%, they still depend on the quality of their input. Image resolution, ink degradation, and even the type of parchment can introduce errors. Contaminated fragments, uneven lighting, and material decay remain hurdles. AI is a tool, not a substitute for traditional archaeology or textual scholarship. Moreover, machine learning models reflect the biases of their datasets. If the initial training fragments come from a narrow region or period, the model may misclassify outliers. Context still matters. Was the scroll written during a time of persecution? Was it copied in haste? These are questions AI cannot answer alone. Scholars urge caution. While dating is crucial, it does not solve every mystery. Identifying a scribe's hand is different from knowing their motives. AI can show that a scroll was penned in 200 BCE, but not why that scribe chose to omit a passage or alter a law. Interpretation, social, theological, political, remains a human task. That is why collaboration is vital. AI should be viewed as a partner to epigraphy, paleography, and archaeology, not a replacement. When used responsibly, it enhances our capacity to ask better questions. But the answers still require careful, transparent, and multidisciplinary analysis. With its promise and limits laid bare, AI now enters the next phase of scroll research. The fragments still hold secrets, and future technologies may bring even more of them to light. The future of Dead Sea Scrolls research. The model Enoch is now open source, allowing researchers worldwide to apply its tools to new fragments. Hundreds of pieces once considered undatable, too damaged, too contaminated, are now within reach. Because AI is non-destructive, even the most fragile manuscripts can be digitally analyzed, preserving them for future generations while unlocking their stories today. Future studies aim to integrate multispectral imaging, 3D scanning, and chemical ink analysis, offering even deeper insights into production techniques. By combining spectral data with AI pattern recognition, scholars can determine whether a scribe used local or imported materials, identify reuse of parchment, or detect faint erased text invisible to the eye. Broader comparative work is also underway. AI can now compare the Dead Sea Scrolls with the Samaritan Pentateuch, the Septuagint, and early Christian manuscripts, mapping how different communities interpreted or edited the same scriptures. This may illuminate theological divergences long before official canonization, revealing networks of influence stretching from Jerusalem to Alexandria to Antioch. Public engagement will also evolve. Museums, religious institutions, and schools face the challenge of presenting this new complexity without sensationalism. Faith need not be undermined by nuance. Rather, it can be enriched by it. The scrolls no longer whisper a story of preservation. They now speak of transformation. As we listen to these newly amplified voices from the past, one final realization emerges. The scrolls were never silent. They waited for us to learn how to hear them. The scrolls are not silent. After more than 2,000 years hidden in desert caves, the Dead Sea Scrolls are speaking again. Not just through their words, but through their ink, fibers, folds, and hands. With the help of artificial intelligence, we are beginning to hear voices long buried, scribes debating doctrine, communities adapting belief, survivors recording memory in fragile script. What they say is not easy. The scrolls show us that scripture was not always stable, that sacred words were edited, erased, reordered, that theology was fluid, and that faith was, and still is, a conversation. This truth may unsettle some, but it also offers freedom. A faith that evolves is not weaker. It is alive. These manuscripts remind us that history is not neat. It is layered, contradictory, and rich. What we thought was fixed is now shown to be in motion, and in that motion lies meaning. If these texts could survive war, exile, and decay, perhaps they endure not because they are perfect, but because they are human. In the end, the scrolls offer not just history, but a question. If Scripture is more human than we believe, how do we live in light of that? The answer, perhaps, is in the whisper: seek truth, accept revision, and embrace mystery. The journey of the scrolls is not over. As long as we read, question, and wonder, they remain alive, timeless echoes from a cave, still speaking into the future. This isn't about heresy or disbelief, it's about clarity. As AI models like Enoch sift through ink geometry and carbon decay, a hidden past emerges. Scriptures evolving, scribes collaborating, timelines unraveling. These aren't just old scrolls, they're ideological battlegrounds, stitched with revision and survival. Today, with new tools in hand, we return to the caves, not to preserve a myth, but to confront a truth. What AI has uncovered may change everything we thought was settled.